No, but I just want to make one point that really pisses me off about Kevin Costner. He made a movie called Dances with Wolves. And there was like, what, one, maybe two dance numbers in the whole movie? Welcome to Wait What? Sports Biz Chat with DP and McGee, the podcast where we take a sometimes irreverent, sometimes cynical, and yes, even a sometimes serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, Tim McGee.
And I'm David Parro.
David, I am super stoked for this episode. It is a special, one-of-a-kind episode in the annals of Wait What? I want to get to it quickly, so I want to ask you first, what is on your mind? What do you want to talk about?
Well, a couple of things. I'm excited, too. This is so much fun, and we've talked about doing it for a while. We'll leave people hanging, I guess, a little bit more. And I think, in a way, it's a perfect setup. I want to talk about the World Series first, because I think we just came off of something that was very special, and not just for baseball fans, but for sports fans. And I'm struck more than ever, I think, at especially with, so much going on in the world and not all great and a lot of challenges, is that just how much sports plays the unifying role for us. And it's not just the Dodgers win, but just this unbelievable World Series with an amazing team from Toronto and the Blue Jays, and this very incredibly well-built organization that has now won back-to-back World Series out in Los Angeles. The Dodgers that drew over 4 million fans this year, just was really, really remarkable. The data that I've seen on Game 7 is that it drew 25.5 million viewers on Fox in the U.S., making it the best Game 7 since the Astros-Dodgers World Series in 2017. So the Dodgers are a continuing thread here, which had over 28 million. And that drew up the overall average to 14.76. We had talked about on the last show that the first two games were slightly down. You had made the point, a well-noted point, that Toronto isn't delivering one of the DMAs that Nielsen is measuring on that. But in Canada, the game drew very well, best Blue Jays game ever. And I think when you look at the overall number in Canada of 10.9, which, as I said, represented not only the largest audience for a Blue Jays broadcast in history, but the most watched broadcast of any Sportsnet broadcast. And then you kind of look at that number, and I think people have to remember that the United States is close to 8 times larger in population than Canada. So you can see how that number from a rating or a share standpoint was quite significant. And just the play was it was so exciting and so thrilling. So back to the point about how it's unifying, it's just so exhilarating, and it's, I guess, one thing that we can continue to count on.
Yeah, I dislike both teams just because of the history between the Yankees and the Dodgers, and of course, the Blue Jays beating the Yankees and being in the same division. But what a fantastic World Series! That Game 7 in particular, with Pages and that play in the outfield, and IKF not making it home on the fourth play. I mean, there was just so many things. Guerrero, unbelievable. Shohei Yamamoto. I mean, just a fantastic series. I saw a really sad, if you're a Blue Jays fan, video of the champagne being carted in wagons from the Blue Jays locker room to the Dodgers locker room. And just, that's just absolutely brutal. But a couple of things. So Japan
the ultimate jinx, by the way. I mean, you just gotta stay invisible on that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened since then, but the last time I remember seeing something like that was 1986, Game 6, when the Red Sox were an out away from claiming their first World Series since 1908, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at that point. Anyway, Japan, 1/4 of the population of the U.S., drew 75% of the audience. 50% of Canadians tuned in. Just phenomenal. So that makes it truly a World Series.
Yeah. Yes.
Dodgers first team in history play their first game and their last game of the season outside of the United States. That's pretty cool. All that to say, good luck, Rob Manfred. Now you got to go into CBA discussions.
We've talked about that too. You always hope that they take advantage of this of this high that they're on right now. But there's a lot that they have to get over, and they have a little time. And I'm just hopeful, because this was great, and it brought back all the things and the reasons I fell in love with the game. And I still think that the game, even though there have been so many changes to it, it still delivered. It's still just big time delivered. So I'm extremely hopeful, I guess, and I may be naive, but I'm hopeful that they can take advantage of that, both sides, and come to something that's a true win-win.
Every significant work stoppage in Major League Baseball going back over 50 years has resulted in a significant decrease in fan interest, viewership, attendance, every metric that shows the health. And Major League Baseball seems to have done everything right over the last 5 years. It would be absolutely horrible if they give up all of that momentum, all of that growth, all of that goodwill that they've engendered in that time.
Well, Tim, we saw another championship crowned this weekend on the NASCAR side, and I'll turn it back over to you if you want to chat about your observations there.
Congratulations to Kyle Larson and Hendrick Motorsports. A great win, one that happened in a truly sad way. If you're a Denny Hamlin fan and a Joe Gibbs Racing fan, Denny Hamlin up with 9 laps to go, a seemingly insurmountable lead, and then another one of the finalists, William Byron, blows a tire, which had been happening throughout the race about the same time in the run that had happened for him. They went to caution. Denny had to take 4 tires, and they came out, and he just couldn't overcome it as they were racing in overtime. But that's racing. But he is, I think, cemented his title as the greatest NASCAR driver never to have won a championship.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think 60 wins or so. Listen, he had an amazing season. He's not one of the young kids, but he still certainly seems to have a lot of fire. You and I communicated, I think, over the weekend as this was happening, and, talking about the changes that it does look like they're going to be making. And I know that Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps and various other stakeholders are already looking at what those changes could be, because it did seem wrong. It seemed weird given how dominant he was during the race. I happened to have a conversation with past guest Jake LaLetta, and the president happens to be the president of 2311, which is at the center of a lot of things going on in the NASCAR world. And he reminded me of something, or I guess he brought to my attention something. When you and I were texting, I was like going, this is a travesty and da-da-da-da-da. You may have brought it up to a point, but if you looked at the old traditional point system that we used to operate on, that you and I grew up in the sport on, Kyle Larson would have been the champion. If you looked at a 10-race championship playoff, Kyle Larson would have been the champion. That just accumulated the points. So that backed me off a little. And Kyle Larson is a fantastic race car driver, and Hendrick Motorsports is a fantastic organization. But it just was gutting for Denny.
Yes, and apparently his father is very ill, and they were, they were hoping to win for, among all the other myriad reasons, so that his father would be able to share in the joy of that championship as he's facing his illness. So again, that's what makes sports great. It's, you and I are old enough to remember the tagline: "The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat."
Yeah,
that's what sports is. The ultimate reality TV show.
But that goes back to the point, and it was off of the World Series championship, and watching that race and just recognizing how much this all draws us in, and why I say it just continues to deliver, because there is emotion, there is human emotion involved, including in these sports that are highly driven by machinery, let's say, and to some degree technology, not as much in NASCAR as maybe some other motorsports, but yes, in NASCAR as well. And it was a pretty unbelievable season. I do think we're going to see some changes. And just follow up on my mention of Jake, there was news yesterday on 2311 and Front Row Motorsports legal situation with NASCAR, and some further news, I think, that looks to be benefiting 2311 and Front Row, and a push from the judge that's been overseeing this, Kenneth Bell, to try to get that thing settled before it gets to trial in December. Yeah,
hopefully they will come to a resolution on that for all parties involved. Yeah. Because again, Notwithstanding the questions about the playoff format, NASCAR's had a great couple of years. People have come back to the sport. I know there's a lot of talk in motorsport circles here in the United States about F1, but when you look at the relative size of the audience, NASCAR is by far the biggest motorsport in the United States.
It is, and I think it's done a lot of things to start regenerating their audience, because it was very much an aging audience. And I don't know if they've done enough, because there were a lot of screams that we have to go back to the old school way of doing playoffs. And I think what they'll come up with is some sort of hybrid, because the playoff thing has worked. It has helped in terms of creating excitement. And this final race of the season was, for a sports fan, certainly a motorsports fan, was must watch, I think, because of the drama of four guys going in. Whoever finished the highest of those four was going to win the championship. So yeah, I think that it's in a good place. I think Steve Phelps has guided the sport well, and along with Steve O'Donnell, who's done I think a great job, and various other members of leadership. So we'll see how they come out of this situation, and if they continue to, kind of be in a good spot and are able to draw new audiences, because that's where F1 has been particularly good.
Yep. So a couple quick hits before we go into our special.
All right.
Just I can't let it go. Hugh Freeze fired from Auburn. He's poor guy. He's only getting $15.8 million in his buyout.
Hiker.
Yeah, brings the total this year to $185 million in buyouts for CFP college coaches. But wait, there's more. That in the past 11 years, since we moved from the BCS to the CFP format, we surpassed the $1 billion in payout mark.
That is such a deep cut stat, and it's just like you to dig down deep.
Nothing is too good. No. Nothing is too good for our listeners.
No, you have to. They expect that kind of stuff from you, not from me, by the way. So I'm glad you're delivering.
So as we talk more and more about college sports more and more resembling professional sports, this is one area where the professional teams seem to have got it right, where they honor contracts and don't make rash decisions, unless you're in the case of certain owners, David Tepper, Woody Johnson, etc. So, but it's just something has to get this. This is not a sustainable business model.
No, it's and these are largely large state universities too. So then we have governors getting involved in all kinds of crazy stuff happening. And by the way, Dabo might be. He could be right there. Some of these guys like Franklin.
He seems to want to get fired.
He does. He keeps pushing the envelope. It seems like he's doing a, firing by, like a suicide by complaining type of thing. But I'm starting to want, all these coaches that are like, they'll do fine. There will be plenty. Now there are too many people out there. I don't know, who's gonna fill these roles, or is just going to be, this constant carousel going on between these coaches.
If I was one of those guys, I would call up my fellow fired coach and say, hey, what do you say we go in and we buy an island?
Yeah.
Just hang out.
Get out of it. Stop. Yeah.
Just
Why do
hang
I
out.
need this?
Yeah.
Great players want to be great players. Great coaches want to be great coaches. And I guess they keep challenging themselves. But
and great podcasters just want to get paid.
Yeah, really.
Take a quick break and come back with our special
Let's
episode.
It's movie time. It's movie time on TV and McGee. It's movie time.
We are back, and as we teased in the introduction, we've got a very special episode today. No, we do not have a guest, but David and I are going to be giving our top 10 all-time sports movie lists. So without further ado, and it reminds me when I coached lacrosse at Columbia, there was one year we were penalized several times for having 11 men on the field, and there's 10 players in lacrosse, and I famously said, you guys go to an Ivy League school and you can't even count to 10. And I was awarded a T-shirt at the end of the season. So our top 10 list is going to include 11 names. We're going to start with our honorable mention. So David.
Well, Well, 11, I have like a whole list of honorable mentions.
You
Do you
do?
want- How many do you
Okay.
have? How many do you have? I can cut mine down on the spot. All right.
I have one, but
Yeah.
how many do you have? I can add a couple.
Well, there's so many that we had to consider. And by the way, this is the reason we wanted to do this and have been talking about it for a while. Is we've done movie references. We both love pop culture references, and we do get feedback, believe it or not, from time to time. People saying, "You guys got to like lean into that, that type of stuff." And so we've put out a lot of our movie bits on social, and they tend to do pretty well. I'll just shoot these around. You can have one big one, but these are ones that I love and will watch and love the movies, but they just couldn't fit into the top 10.
Okay.
So Talladega Nights, I've watched that movie 100 times, and I couldn't fit it into my top 10. Cinderella Man, probably my second favorite boxing movie, and boxing movies make great movies. Rocky 3, which was the best of the franchise ones after, in my opinion. Dodgeball, one of the funniest movies ever. 42 with the late great Chadwick Boseman in it. 8 Men Out, Happy Gilmore, the original Longest Yard. Tin Cup, maybe my favorite golf movie. These couldn't make it on. $1 Million Baby, probably my third favorite boxing movie, or fourth favorite boxing movie. These are all, in my opinion, great movies that I couldn't squeeze into my top 10. So I'll leave it at that. And I know that's a longer honorable mention, because as we always do on, Wait What, we overly plan, so we're completely in sync on things like this.
Well, it's funny because there is some overlap on our honorable mention, or those that did not make the final cut list. I had Rocky, I had Talladega Nights, I had the original Longest Yard. Mighty Ducks, could not make my list. Mystery Alaska could not make my list. And then, for those of you listening, you are not seeing the jersey that David is wearing right now. It is a 31 Chicago Bears jersey, Brian Piccolo. David, you and I are both old enough to remember Brian's song. That was my number 11 pick. Interestingly, Brian Piccolo would have turned 81 last week, and he died in 1970, so I think I can make a joke right now.
Brian Piccolo joke.
Brian Piccolo passed away from a form of cancer that I can't even pronounce. At that time, they had people who suffered from that type of cancer had a 5% survival and cure rate. Now it's up to 95%. So we would not be blessed. It's not a joke, but we would not be blessed with such a fantastic movie starring James Caan, pre-Sonny Corleone, and Billy D. Williams, pre-Star Wars, as Gale Sayers, if it was a curable form of cancer at the time. So
that's an interesting point. Thank goodness for all the people that work on trying to cure cancer and making those improvements on the medication side and the treatment side, because that really is unbelievable. So, all right, that's a tough honorable, like a final one off the list, like first one out.
That was tough. That was tough not to.
Yeah, my first one out was Talladega Nights, by the way.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right. Okay. Without further ado, I'm going to do my bottom 5, my 10 through 6.
Okay.
And then you're going to go, and then we'll go top 5. So now, as Tim pointed out, I'm wearing a Brian Piccolo jersey. This was a gift, one of the best gifts I've ever received from my former teammates at Deep Alliance when I first started the agency, Matt Forsley and Elise Kokonis, who got me this as a holiday gift, which is most amazing thing, and I've always kept it. My number 10 is Brian's song, and it's a double homer pick for me, not only as a Bears fan. Brian Piccolo, of course, famously went to Wake Forest. The Wake Forest fight song is in that, and we can't deny how much of an impact that movie had on us. It was a made-for-TV movie, early genre made-for-TV movie that incredibly blew up in terms of popularity. I don't think it's the best acted best acted movie, but it is a great story, certainly heartwarming, and I have that tie to it. Okay. I have number 9, and I know this is a movie that you like, so I'm guessing I'll see it. It's another football movie, Remember the Titans. Number 9. Denzel at his best. The movie was full of hope and inspiration, a 2000 movie. Just very great, and it's one that if it pops up, I will certainly watch it. I think Denzel was amazing in it, and there was, Ryan Gosling. No one had ever heard of Ryan Gosling before. He's in it, and a lot of young actors in there. Number 8, one that's not talked about that anymore, but maybe the best coming-of-age story since The Outsiders, Breaking Away. It was a Peter Yates
Wow.
movie, 1979. It's not one that I've watched a lot, but I need to go back. Starred Dennis Quaid, first role from Daniel Stern. There's an interesting thread here with an actor named Jack Early Haley, which I'll bring back up in a second. Paul Dooley. Great movie. Dealt with cycling, University of Indiana, so there were a couple different sports ties there. Unbelievable movie.
Great.
Yeah.
Hold on, can I just say that's a
Yes.
great call. That did not make my list, but that with Dennis Christopher as the wannabe Italian racer, and
he was so good in that role. I mean, and what a unbelievably funnily written idea about a guy that dreamed about being an Italian bicycler from Bloomington, Indiana, and he had the whole thing, and then the disillusionment with the Italian cycling team, and he becomes a fan of the French team.
Yeah.
Just great story. Number 7, a game-changing comedy in all ways, Caddyshack. Oh, by the way, I was wrong. This obviously is my top golf movie. Great performances by everyone, including, of course, Bill Murray. But Ted Knight was the one that did it for me. I mean, just he was a comic genius in my mind. 1980 movie, directed and co-written by the late, great Harold Ramis.
Just one question for you.
Amazing. Yeah.
Just how about a fresca?
Yeah. There's not, and Rodney's just, of course, amazing in it. So it was just loaded. Apparently the sets were complete mayhem.
Wow, with Brian Doyle Murray, Bill Murray, Chevy Chase.
Well, Doug Kenny, who was the co-writer, he was completely insane. That guy, I think Rodney was the guy, and maybe Ted Knight, that were like, whoa, this is completely out of control.
I would imagine that there was a lot of drinking and drugging on that set, but
yeah.
I don't know that.
Yes. No, there definitely was. Okay, and my last one of my bottom 5 is what I think is one of the great, like a beautiful story of something that wasn't told. And it got its moment, and that's the Penny Marshall directed A League of Their Own from 1992, starring Tom Hanks and Gina Davis, among many other luminaries. I thought a great call out and talk about the American Girls Professional League, another movie that I truly enjoy watching when it pops on. So that's my bottom 5.
I have list envy. I got to tell you, you've got some phenomenal picks on there. A couple of them I have as well. So my number 10, I go way back. Pride of the Yankees.
I had a sense you were going to have that one on there.
Gary Cooper as Lou Gehrig, Teresa Wright as Eleanor, his wife, Babe Ruth doing a cameo as himself. I will tell you that if we did a Razzies, the Babe Ruth story with William Bendix would probably be on that list. That was just a horrible movie. That's number 10. Number 9, the original Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau. Just a funny movie, and came out at a time when I was all about funny movies. Number 8, Barry Levinson, one of my favorite directors. Tin Man Diner, which had the theme of the Baltimore Colts throughout the movie, but The Natural with Robert Redford. What a great cast in that movie. Glenn Close. Just a phenomenal movie. That's number 8. Number 7, sticky on the baseball theme. 8 Men Out, about the Chicago Black Sox 1919 series. John Sayles directed movie. Used to see John Sayles all the time on the bus when I was taking the bus in from Hoboken to Manhattan. Charlie Sheen in one of his earlier roles. John Cusack in one of his early roles. David Strathairn in a great role.
By the way, a quick thread on David Strathairn. He was in A League of Their Own as well. The guy was drawn to roles in baseball movies, I guess.
Yeah. So that would be number...
That was 7.
Number 7. Number 6. Going not quite as far back. 1 on 1.
Oh, Robbie Benson.
Robbie Benson. Playing a hotshot recruit. Going to a UCLA-style school. J.D. Spradlin played his coach, and J.D. Spradlin will come up later on in my list. But great line in that movie at the end when Robbie Benson tells Coach, stick it with a red hot poker.
I was going to ask you if you could remember the final line, and I assumed that you would. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
So that's number 6. Yeah, that's number 6. So let's go to your top 5.
Good stuff. All right, some interesting bits here, and only one of your bottom 5 is on my top 5 list.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to start with. Number 5, 1976. I put Bad News Bears on there because it's outlandishness. It's how much we loved it at the time and how much we look back on it and say, wow, that's maybe the most politically incorrect movie ever made. Well,
Blazing Saddles.
Okay, yes. Okay, good call.
But maybe most inappropriate sports movie.
But yeah, Walter Matthau, Tatum O'Neal, and the great Kelly Leak, played by
Jackie
Earl
Earl
Haley. Yeah.
Yes.
So a nice little thread on that one. And of course, when we've discussed this before, the all-time best, jersey patch deal, Chico's Bail Bonds being the sponsor.
It's not the first time Chico's Bail Bonds has come up on this show.
It's not, because we honor greatness at all times and all points. All right, number 4. This is admittedly a homer pick, as I grew up in Philadelphia area, but it's certainly, you can't deny, it's one of the greatest all-time underdog stories, and that's the original Rocky from 1976, of course, written by Sylvester Stallone and Talia Shire, Burgess Meredith in that great role, Carl Weathers, who passed away not too long ago, who had, appeared in the Happy Gilmore movies as well. So I have Rocky at number 4. Mm-hmm. Number 3, I will say this, Cameron Crowe is one of my favorites. Some of my favorite movies, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Almost Famous. He wrote Jerry Maguire and directed Jerry Maguire. And Jerry Maguire is, one of the reasons I have it this high is I did see it recently. It's a beautifully told story, wonderfully written by Cameron Crowe, and it was surprisingly real in our business in a weird way, that agent side of the business. And I do have to tell a quick story if you oblige me on this.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
It's going to involve a name drop.
It's going to totally involve a name drop. You got me. Yes, but it's a good name drop, I think.
Okay.
So you'll recall at the end of the movie when Jerry's had his moment and Cuba Gooding Jr. has gotten his big giant contract, and he thinks, and I guess he's lining up and he walks by Lee Steinberg and Troy Aikman, and Lee Steinberg introduces him to Troy, and Troy has the line, he goes, "Loved your memo," right? Because that was a recurring theme in the thing. I love your memo, when what Tom Cruise or Jerry Maguire had actually written was a mission statement. He wrote a mission statement that somehow got out and people kept calling it a memo. So I recall it was during SFX days, and I think it might have been the first time I was up in New York from DC meeting with all like the sales guys that were there, and I was heading the consulting group. And Vino's in this meeting, Cliff Kaplan, I'm guessing Russ might have been there, Mike Principi, who's the head of GSE now. Like people that went on to great things. And I had written a mission statement for consulting, and I was trying to communicate that to all the sales guys so they knew. And these guys busted my ass so bad when I mentioned I had a mission statement, because Jerry Maguire was a big movie to anyone, I think, in the agency. Anyway, it's a funny memory of mine. Not why I put it on the list, but I do think it's a great movie. Number 2, and I mentioned it on this show as my number 1 sports comedy movie, and it is Bull Durham. Great movie. Ron Shelton, a writer. You've talked about his background as a baseball player. Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins. Great movie. Robert Wool, who went on to play Arliss, had a brilliantly funny role in that. I think it hit everything. Like everything was funny for people that really like sports, I thought. And my number 1 all-time sports movie. It didn't win any Oscars, but I think it holds up, and that is Hoosiers, starring Gene Hackman, Barbara Hershey, and Dennis Hopper, who was nominated for a Best Supporting Actor. I think he should have won it. One of the greatest comeback stories ever told, I think, and it happened to be around sports, very Midwestern, obviously being based in Indiana. So that's my number 1.
Yeah, and based on a true story.
Based loosely on a true story, as most of these things tend to be.
Well, it wasn't a documentary.
Yes, correct.
So I have a question before I give my top 5, and it's not on the list. Dazed and Confused. Could you count that as a sports movie? You have Randall Pink Floyd as the quarterback. You have Kelly, the pitcher, his youth baseball team.
Well, I used Breaking Away as a sports movie because of the tie to, the Little 500 that they have, and the fact that he was a cyclist. So you could kind of argue that's not a true sports movie, but yeah, I don't know. We didn't have that strong of a vetting of what classified. It's like if we feel it's a sports movie, it's a sports movie. So if you have it on your list.
No, I don't. I
All
don't. I
right.
just thought of it. All right, all right, all right. Okay, my top 5.
Yeah.
Bull Durham. Candlesticks, always a great gift.
Best.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Annie
we can't go
Savoy.
down that. We can't go down that road again.
I believe.
People will start wondering. Yeah.
Number 4, another movie from 1980, North Dallas 40.
I knew that you liked that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Mac Davis and Nick Nolte, loosely based on the early 1970s Dallas Cowboys, from the book by Dan Jenkins. J.D. Spradlin, who made an appearance earlier as the coach of Robbie Benson, plays the head coach of the North Dallas Bulls. John Matuszak is in that movie. Probably his second best role after Goonies. I love that movie. To this day, I can quote it. I haven't seen it in quite some time. Number 3, I had Caddyshack.
All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous for your top 2 now.
Yep. And I this is a last minute decision. I'm going to go with Remember the Titans as number 2. I had originally had him as number 1.
Wow.
That is a movie that will stop me in my tracks. I will put down whatever I am doing and
Great
I will
soundtrack
watch
too,
it.
right?
Yeah. And just, again, loosely based on a true story. But I agree. Denzel Washington, a performance for the ages. And yeah. I mean, Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress, River Deep, Mountain High. Yeah, just a fantastic soundtrack. My number 1 movie, and it is a running joke with my daughter. I made her watch it with me when we were younger, and whenever she's home and we're looking for a movie, I always jokingly suggest we watch this. Want to venture a guess?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming it's a comedy based on what your setup is.
No.
Then I don't want to venture a guess.
Miracle.
Oh, yeah. God, I was going to say, is it hockey? And that's not surprising. I liked it, but didn't approach. And I saw it in a theater, and I thought Kurt Russell's performance as Herb Brooks was amazing, but I just didn't think it was that good of a movie, I guess. And I know that may be sacrilege. I thought you were going to say, the reason I asked comedy, I thought you were going to say.
I have to go.
No.
I have to go.
Were you surprised I didn't have it on my list at all?
No, I'm surprised that you said it wasn't a very good movie.
Yeah. I shouldn't. That was strong. That was strong. I thought you were going to say Slapshot.
Oh.
Wait, do we have to do this all over?
Do we got to do top 20 next time?
Yes, maybe.
I was going to quote some lines from Miracle, right? You guys get worse every day, and right now you're playing like the middle of next week.
Oh, man.
You don't have enough talent to get by on talent alone.
Would you be surprised if I have been to a college hockey game at St. Cloud State in Minnesota, where he coached for a bit?
Did he coach there? I mean, he was most...
They named the building after him. I think he was there for a year.
I mean, he was most famously coach of University of Minnesota. I didn't realize he had started at St. Cloud State.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised given your travels.
Listen.
When are you going to be able to say that you went to a college hockey game at Liner Rink at Cornell University?
I would love to do that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I would love to do that.
Carolyn's tired of being my traveling companion, so we'll have to find you a replacement.
Yeah, Miracle.
But you got to sit next to the curmudgeonly old lady who has the seat on the end of the aisle, who gets pissed if you come in. Ask Tom Glick about her. Last time we went to a game last year, the ushers sent us down, it was a quick whistle, so they went back to play, and we had to climb over her to get to her seats. And she gave I make my guests sit next to her. I don't sit next to her.
Yeah.
And she gave Glick a ration of shit. And I said to her, I'm really sorry they sent us down. She said, I don't give a shit what they did. She's about 80 years old.
I take that as a challenge, and I think I'll be happy to try to deal with that.
All right. Well, I'll get you scheduled.
Listen, when I say not a good film, I'm thinking in terms of the genre that I had in my top 10, I guess. And maybe I should have had it on my honorable mention. The story's great. He gave a great performance. It's from a great memory of ours. So, yeah, I shouldn't be that harsh. Can I do one added thing to you? Because there were 2 films that neither of us had on our list.
All right. Before you do that, I just want to say that I have used Miracle in a course that I have taught at St. John's on effective coaching techniques. And I used the speech that he gives before the Soviet Union game. Now it's your time, boys. Your
Do you
time.
give it? Do you do it with
With the
that
Minnesota accent?
Northern Plains accent? Yeah.
This is not tonight, fellas. This is your time.
I had two things written down as incredibly popular but overrated movies. That it's not that I don't think they're good. Miracle's not on this. And one of them is a movie that I'll actually watch when it comes on, but I don't have it on my list because it's some bizarre yuppie fantasy idea.
Okay, I was going to say Days of Thunder was one of them.
No, that's just ridiculous.
Horrible. Okay, go on.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, we didn't have that on there. It is so different from the book that I thoroughly enjoyed the book.
The story's not bad, but it came to life to me in a weird way. Now, I will say this. The scene where he ends up playing catch with his father at the end, I cry every time. I will admit that. That's amazing. And listen, Ray Liotta's great in everything, or was great in everything. Rest in peace. The other one is a movie that, to all of my Notre Dame friends, I'm sorry, we mentioned Jake before. I think Rudy is the most ridiculous movie ever made. It's a complete fabrication, and those that were involved in it will admit that. So Jake, Tom Baldessari, like good friends of mine.
Michael
I'm
Edge.
sorry, Mike. I'm sorry, but come on, man. That didn't happen. Nothing happened. Rudy.
I liked it the first time when it was called Lucas, starring Corey Haim and Charlie Sheen and Kerry Green and a very young Winona Ryder. Lucas plays a very similar role, walks onto the football team for very similar reasons. Field of Dreams, I will watch that movie, but it didn't enter my thought process there. Days of Thunder, I think, is terrible. It's just a bad movie.
Yeah, Cole Trickle.
Yeah, I mean, The Fish Who Saved Pittsburgh made the initial cut. Dr. J.
We didn't have Space Jam either, which I think Space Jam was a reasonably fun movie for kids, but
it came along at a time where I didn't have kids yet, and I was too old to watch it. I didn't see it. Semi-Pro with Will Ferrell, not his best work, but a pretty good movie. Semi-Tough with Burt Reynolds.
Another Dan Jenkins story, I think.
Yeah. Didn't make the cut. And when I started this list, I made columns of different sports. Right? I even had Seabiscuit in there and Secretariat in there. Seabiscuit's a great movie. Tobey Maguire.
I had Seabiscuit was under a consideration. I just liked the book that much more, to your point on the Field of Dreams. So we had 4 overlaps. Only 4. No, yeah. 1. Remember the Titans, Caddyshack, Bull Durham, and Bad News Bears we both had on our lists.
Yeah, and I had, if you count my number 11 Brian song, which was your number 10.
Yes.
Take a break and we'll...
Well, yeah, and we want to encourage people to come on and, like, when we post this episode, because we need to hear from people, because, hey, this is just 2 guys' opinions. Do a podcast.
Yeah, but
they're pretty serious opinions. We're pretty much experts.
They're right. I mean, they're as close to you can get to as facts as you can. No, we would love to hear other people's thoughts. I'm sure there are some that we didn't even think to mention tonight. Yeah. That will go, oh yeah, that was a great one.
Right,
so
we'll
Running Man, would Running Man be a...
Well, there's a reboot of that, isn't there?
Yeah, but like a sport is literally in the title of the movie.
Well, yeah, but it's because he's running away from getting killed.
But it's not. They don't call it driving away.
Marathon Man.
Dustin Hoffman. That's a fantastic movie. He
Great
runs
movie.
Mary, who goes to Columbia. Can I just say, because we brought up Kevin Costner within the context of Bull Durham, Field of Dreams. He was also in another movie where he played.
Tin Cup was on my honorable mention.
Tin Cup. He played a pitcher for the Tigers in another movie.
Let's just call it what it is. Kevin Costner is leading man of sports genre, with Charlie Sheen being up there as well, who legitimately in Major League, another decent movie that didn't make our list, in Major League, his pitching form was pretty good, better than David Strathairn's in 8 Men Out, if you ask me.
David Strathairn looked like he was about 80 years old going out to an old-timers game.
I've said it before, and I don't mean to bring it up again, but I definitely could hit him. I mean, not Eddie Seacott, but I could hit David Strathairn.
Well, I just want to make one point that really pisses me off about Kevin Costner. He made a movie called Dances with Wolves. And there was like, 1, maybe 2 dance numbers in the whole movie? All right, let's take a break.
back from that special segment, which was, Tim, that was a blast. We'll do more of those things. I guess we could carve this thing up any way we want. Golf movies,
Just in the break,
baseball movies,
we
Ones
talked
that
about
we
movies
forgot.
that didn't make our list. That are phenomenal movies.
But we have reached that time of the show where we throw out shout outs. We mention things that we're looking forward to and various other subjects that we weren't able to get to. So Tim, I'll throw it over to you. What do you have your eye on?
Well, the first thing I want to mention is a topic and a property that we haven't talked about for quite some time, but it's back in the news. LIV Golf. First of all, one of their players, whose name escapes me right now, qualified for the Masters this past week under newly structured rules that the Masters Augusta put in place. But more importantly, they are going to a 72-hole format next year. So I don't know off the top of my head what the Roman numeral for 72 is, but maybe they'll change it to that.
Yeah.
But I think they're doing that in the hopes of getting their players world golf ranking points. My understanding is that CEO Scott O'Neill has already sent in a request to be recognized for world golf ranking points, but they will have smaller fields, and so the opportunity for LIV players to win points will not be as great as those who play on the PGA Tour, but it is a move in that direction for LIV Golf. So I'll definitely be watching that. I also just want to, it seems to happen once a year or so. There was a senior vice president at the Atlanta Hawks by the name of Lester James, who was indicted on embezzling nearly $4 million over the course of several years in his role in the finance group at the Atlanta Hawks. And ultimately, these teams tend to find these people, but it sure seems to take a long time. I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, if I was a finance person, I'd create a cottage industry to go work with these teams, because what's the likelihood that this guy's ever going to be able to make enough money to pay restitution? He may go to prison, and it may be a deterrent to the next guy, although I'm not quite sure that it is. And so now the team is going to have to claw back as much of that $3.8 million as they can, and I'm not confident that they'll get a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't believe this story when I saw it, and it's always the finance people.
They think
But
they're
I guess
smarter than the rest of us.
Maybe. I mean, I guess the figuring is they can figure out a way to hide it, but it's just so remarkable and discouraging. And so hopefully it'll, figure itself out. They'll be able to get it. And this person, if he is found guilty, is punished, to the extent that he can. Regarding LIV, I did want to say, LIV announced a couple other things. They've had some new development programs to bring some younger players along, something that the PGA Tour is better at. LIV hasn't been good at. By the way, the Roman numeral is LXXII. The 𝗪𝗟𝗪𝗪.
That rolls off the tongue.
And I've had some people write me about, okay, finally they're figuring it out because they can get their, OWGR points, rankings and all that, and that'll definitely be a help. I just don't see where the product changes. I don't see, does it address the market issue with the product at this point? But, listen, Scott came in to make changes, and they're making changes. And that certainly, at least in terms of that issue they're having, I think certainly makes sense. What they'll call themselves, we'll see. One thing I will say about LIV Golf is that name was quite good. It worked out pretty nicely. If you're all done, the other thing I have my eye on, which is a story that hits me where it hurts and at home, is the carriage dispute between Disney and Google, YouTube TV, over their the carriage rates that they're charging. So I'm not getting ABC or ESPN at the moment. And that's kind of a bummer because of things like Monday Night Football. Not that there are not other workarounds, but that's very disappointing. And apparently the issue is that Disney is looking for a big number and a higher number that they get from Charter and that they get from Comcast based on the number of subscribers that those two carriers have, which is more than what YouTube TV has. So they're looking for a per subscriber basis that's higher for those channels, and we all know that ESPN is at the top of that. So they're already they're fetching a lot. YouTube TV have been paying a lot, but YouTube TV doesn't want to keep going up, and that's what the argument's about. And there is new news coming out that we'll continue to have to follow this story on the Clippers and Ballmer situation. We joked about it a little last week, actually, but there have been investors in Aspiration, which now goes by Katana or Katona, I guess they had to change their name, that some of the investors in that are now suing Ballmer directly because of Ballmer's involvement in it, or that's what they're claiming, and that it definitely was him paying through to Aspiration to direct that money to Kawhi. That's what the suit is saying. So we will see where that goes, because that continues to be a story. I did want to make one other quick shout out to Todd Parker, who's at Playfly. 2 weeks in a row, we talked about someone from Playfly, but he had actually written me just kind of saying, hey, Pod's great, thanks for everything, and was kind of making the point how interesting it is with all the gambling scandal that we talked about last week around the NBA, and how quickly the Shohei thing and his interpreter went away, because the interpreter obviously came out, I think, pled guilty, and Shohei was completely exonerated there. But it still really did happen pretty quickly, didn't it?
Well,
that all got pushed aside, and Todd was just like reaching out, saying, "Hey," and saying like, "Isn't that an interesting part of the story?" Because he was talking about how we enjoyed the coverage that we had on the NBA scandal. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's nice. But there have been people who have questioned the seriousness and thoroughness of Major League Baseball's investigation into the Ohtani thing. It seemed to be swept under the rug quite quickly. Now, it could be very obvious that he wasn't involved, but we live in a society where people are quick to be cynical and even quicker, seemingly, to be conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, but it was fun, and appreciate Todd sending in that note. All right, you got anything else?
No, I think that's quite enough.
That was a hell of a show.
Yeah, it's one of the most fun shows I've done in a while.
Yeah, that was an absolute blast. So I guess we'll just wrap this up. Our first ever movie time special. I mean, we're certainly game for more of these pop culture specials. So let us know directly via Spotify, LinkedIn, whatever. Just reach out, because we had fun doing this, no doubt about it. Be sure to hit that follow and that subscribe button whenever you have a chance. And follow us across all the social media by checking out dpandmcgee.com. So we'll be back next week with a more normal episode, I think. I think it's safe to say. So until then, I'm DP. He's McGee. Wait.
Don't be so quick to judge.
Yeah. You never. We have no idea what we're going to do next week, do we?
That actually is a movie quote from a movie I watched recently. Let's tie everything up in a nice bow.
Let's do it.
John Cusack to Minnie Driver in Gross Point Blank, where she says, "You're a psycho," and he says, "Oh, don't be so quick to judge." Anyway.
There you go. A perfect way to end it. Until next time, I'm DP. He's McGee. We'll talk soon.